Betrayal never comes from the enemy standing outside your gate. It comes from the person who was already inside, the person who knew the private version of you, the fears you never announced, the wounds you covered with confidence, the door you kept locked against the rest of the world, but opened for them. And that is why betrayal does more than break your heart. It attacks your perception of reality. One moment, you believe you understand the relationship. The next, every memory is dragged into an interrogation room. You do not only ask, why did they do this? You ask, how long was I living inside a lie? But betrayal is rarely born in the moment it is discovered. Discovery is only the sound of the structure collapsing. Beneath it are hidden stages, access, resentment, justification, secrecy, and the rewriting of history. This is why we are not going to discuss betrayal as gossip, drama, or simple heartbreak. We are going to dissect it. This investigation unfolds through 6 chapters. Access, resentment beneath gratitude, the mental rewriting of the victim, the double life, the war over reality after exposure, and finally, what betrayal does to the victim's mind. Stay until the final chapter, because recognizing a betrayer is only half the lesson. The greater danger is allowing one person's deception to permanently change the way you see yourself and everyone who comes after them. If you value serious investigations into human behavior, hidden motives, and the machinery operating beneath everyday relationships, subscribe to Mind Trap. This channel does not ask you to fear everyone. It teaches you to see clearly. Now enter carefully, because the anatomy of betrayal begins with the one thing no enemy can steal by force: your permission to come close. Chapter 1. Betrayal requires access. A stranger can deceive you or cause damage, but betrayal in its deepest sense requires an existing agreement of trust. That agreement may never have been spoken aloud. Between partners, it may be loyalty. Between friends, confidentiality. Between relatives, protection. Between colleagues, mutual responsibility. Whatever its form, the message is the same. You are safe with me. Trust lowers the defenses you use against the outside world. You reveal information, make decisions based on another person's word, and stop treating them like a possible threat. This access is what makes intimacy possible. It is also what makes betrayal devastating. The betrayer does not attack a random weakness. They often know exactly where disbelief will slow you down. They know what explanation you are likely to accept, which boundary you are afraid to enforce, and what part of your history makes you doubt yourself. Trust gives them information, proximity, and time. Imagine a close friend who has listened to your ambitions for years. You tell him about an opportunity, explain the plan, and name the person you need to contact. He encourages you. Then, quietly, he takes the idea to the same contact and presents it as his own. The theft hurts. But what destabilizes you is realizing that a conversation you experienced as support was used as surveillance. This is the first incision in the anatomy of betrayal. The same access that allowed someone to care for you gave them the ability to calculate how to harm you. That does not mean trusting was foolish. A life without trust is not wisdom. It is isolation. The lesson is that trust should deepen through evidence. Watch how a person handles small boundaries before giving them access to larger vulnerabilities. Watch what they do with information that offers them no reward. Watch whether their loyalty survives inconvenience. Words request access. Patterns earn it. Chapter 2. When gratitude becomes resentment. Some betrayals begin with hatred. Others begin with help. This is one of the darkest contradictions in human relationships. The person you support may not feel closer to you. Sometimes your help becomes a mirror, reflecting what they could not do alone. At first, they are grateful, but gratitude carries an uncomfortable truth. I needed you. For a secure person, that truth creates appreciation. For an entitled or deeply insecure person, it can create humiliation. Every favor becomes proof of imbalance. Every success of yours reminds them of their dependence. Envy can deepen that resentment. Envy does not merely say, "I want what you have." In its most corrosive form, it says, "Your possession of it makes me feel smaller." Your confidence begins to look like arrogance. Your achievement feels like an insult. They search for flaws because those flaws restore balance inside their mind. Eventually, entitlement enters. What you once gave freely becomes something they believe you owe them. When you finally say no, they do not experience a boundary. They experience deprivation. This is how appreciation can be rewritten as obligation. And this is often where the betrayer begins collecting a private list of accusations. They remember every time you disappointed them, but forget the years you stood beside them. They magnify your mistakes and minimize your sacrifices. They compare what you gave them with what they imagine they deserved. They no longer think, "This person helped me." They think, "This person had more than me." Then, "This person controlled me." And finally, taking from them is not betrayal, it is correction. Not everyone who receives help becomes resentful, but repeated generosity without boundaries can hide character that inconvenience would have revealed much earlier. Watch carefully when you cannot provide what someone wants. Gratitude is easy while the door remains open. Character appears when it closes. Chapter 3. The betrayer must rewrite you. Most people want to believe they are good. This creates a psychological problem for anyone preparing to betray someone who trusts them. If they admit, "This person loved me, helped me, and did not deserve this," then they must confront themselves as the aggressor. That creates cognitive dissonance, a painful conflict between the identity they claim and the action they want to commit. So the mind searches for an escape. The easiest escape is not changing the action, it is changing the story. The betrayer begins editing you inside their private narrative. Your boundaries become control. Your questions become accusations. Your success becomes selfishness. Your past mistakes are pulled from the grave and presented as proof of permanent guilt. Nuance disappears. You must become bad enough to make their behavior feel necessary. Psychologist Albert Bandura described moral disengagement, mental mechanisms that allow people to violate their values while reducing guilt. Responsibility is displaced, consequences minimized, and the victim blamed. In everyday betrayal, it can sound like this: "I had no choice. Anyone in my position would have done the same. They pushed me into it. After everything they did, they deserved it." Sometimes the betrayer recruits an audience before taking action. They share selective stories with friends, relatives, or co-workers. Important context is removed. Your reaction is described, but the provocation is hidden. Your worst moment becomes their public evidence. Their months of deception remain private. This becomes psychological preparation. Every person who agrees that you are difficult gives the betrayer permission to move further. Their social circle becomes a courtroom in which you were accused, tried, and convicted without being allowed to enter. By the time the betrayal happens, they may no longer experience themselves as disloyal. They experience themselves as liberated. The betrayal was not their first act against you. The first act was rewriting your humanity until hurting you felt morally acceptable. Chapter 4. The Double Life. People imagine betrayal should be visible: nervous behavior, cold eyes, missed calls, obvious distance. Sometimes those signs exist. But sometimes the most disturbing feature is how normal everything appears. The betrayer can laugh with you while concealing what they have already decided. They can discuss the future while privately constructing one that excludes you. They can say, "Trust me," not because they are innocent, but because trust has become operationally necessary. This is psychological compartmentalization. One part of life is kept separate from another, allowing conflicting identities to exist without fully colliding. In one compartment, they are the loyal partner, friend, sibling, or colleague. In another, they are the person deleting messages, moving resources, sharing secrets, or preparing an exit. As long as the compartments remain closed, they can behave warmly without experiencing the full moral meaning of what they are doing, and every successful lie makes the next one easier. The first deception may create anxiety. The second creates a method. Soon, secrecy develops a routine: what to hide, erase, and explain. You remember ordinary dinners, supportive conversations, affectionate messages, and future plans. You struggle to understand how those moments could coexist with deception. But human beings are capable of performing one identity while protecting another. This does not mean every private action proves betrayal. Suspicion without evidence can destroy innocent relationships. One behavioral change is not proof, and anxiety is not intuition merely because it feels intense. Look for clusters of contradiction, stories that repeatedly change, transparency that disappears only around specific subjects, sudden hostility toward reasonable questions, unexplained gaps paired with excessive explanation, a new demand for privacy that functions less like a boundary and more like a shield against accountability. The clearest warning is often not secrecy alone. It is the growing distance between what a person says, what the evidence shows, and how aggressively they punish you for noticing. Chapter 5. After Exposure. The War Over Reality. Exposure does not always produce confession. Sometimes it produces a second betrayal. The first betrayal is the act. The second is the attempt to make you distrust your own perception of it. Psychologist Jennifer Fried coined the term DARVO: deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender. The accused person denies the behavior, attacks the confrontation, and presents themselves as the true victim. The sequence is powerful because it changes the subject. You arrive with evidence. They put your character on trial. You ask why they lied. They accuse you of invading their privacy. You describe the harm. They describe your tone. Soon, you are defending the way you discovered the betrayal instead of receiving an answer about why it happened. Some betrayers admit only what can no longer be denied. It is controlled surrender. One fragment confessed to protect the larger structure. Then comes history revision. They claim the relationship was already dead. They insist you always knew. They reinterpret old conflicts as permission. They reduce years of loyalty to a collection of your worst mistakes. This protects their identity. If the relationship was always terrible, then they were not a betrayer. They were a survivor. It also weakens your confidence. If you become confused about the past, you may stop demanding accountability in the present. This is why closure cannot always depend on the betrayer's explanation. The person who manipulated reality before exposure may manipulate the explanation afterward, offering enough truth to sound convincing, but not enough responsibility to set you free. Real accountability has a different shape. It names the behavior without euphemism. It does not blame the victim for discovering it. It accepts consequences. It answers reasonable questions without punishing the person who was harmed. And most importantly, it changes behavior over time. Remorse is not measured by the intensity of an apology. It is measured by the end of deception. Chapter 6. What betrayal does to the mind. After betrayal, the event may end while the investigation inside the victim continues. The brain replays conversations, messages, dates, facial expressions, and moments that once seemed meaningless. This is not weakness. Your mind is attempting to repair a broken model of reality. Before discovery, you believed, "This person is safe," and "My perception can be trusted." Betrayal attacks both beliefs. The brain returns to the evidence to locate when danger became present. That is why the question, "How did I not see it?" can become obsessive. But the question often contains a false accusation. You judge your past self using information that only your present self possesses. You saw incomplete evidence while someone else was actively managing what you were allowed to know. Trust filled the missing spaces because that is what trust is designed to do. Research on betrayal trauma examines why harm committed by a trusted or depended upon person can be different from harm committed by someone distant. The injury includes the collapse of a relationship that organized safety and reality. The aftermath can include anxiety, intrusive thoughts, emotional numbness, hypervigilance, or difficulty trusting. Not every painful betrayal becomes clinical trauma, and only a qualified professional can diagnose a condition. But the impact can still be profound. Recovery begins by separating two questions. Was I wrong about this person? And am I incapable of judging anyone? The first may be true. The second does not follow. Write down what is known, suspected, and unanswered. This stops the mind from treating every possibility as fact. Restore ordinary routines, speak with people who do not pressure you into instant forgiveness or permanent hatred, and seek qualified support if symptoms feel overwhelming or persist. Then rebuild trust in layers. Do not give immediate access because someone speaks beautifully. Do not reject genuine care because someone else once abused it. Allow consistency, accountability, and respect for boundaries to reveal character over time. The goal is not to become the person who never trusts. The goal is to become the person whose trust has standards. Now we can see betrayal for what it is. Not one sudden act, but a sequence. Access gave the betrayer proximity. Resentment changed gratitude into grievance. Self-justification transformed you into a villain. Compartmentalization protected the double life. Denial and blame attempted to rewrite the evidence. Your mind was left holding two realities: the person you believed you knew and the person their actions revealed. If you have lived through this, understand something clearly. Their betrayal does not prove that your loyalty was weakness. It proves that they were given something valuable and chose to misuse it. Do not call repeated deception a mistake because the betrayer cried when consequences arrived. And do not confuse missing someone with evidence that they are safe to return to. But do not allow their character to become your identity. You are not foolish for trusting someone who worked to appear trustworthy, and you are not required to become cruel to prove that you learned. Your task is more difficult than revenge. You must become accurate. Accurate about what happened, the patterns you ignored, and the boundaries you now require. Accurate enough to understand that one betrayer does not represent the entire human race. The deepest victory is not making them regret losing you. It is reaching the point where their decision no longer controls your peace, your self-respect, or your ability to recognize honest love when it finally appears. So remember the final lesson of this investigation. Betrayal reveals the character of the person holding the knife. Healing reveals the character of the person who survived it without becoming one. If this documentary gave language to something you have experienced, subscribe to Mindtrap and join us for the next investigation into the hidden architecture of human behavior. Here, we do not study the mind to manipulate people. We study it so manipulation becomes harder to hide. This is Mindtrap. And now that you understand the anatomy of betrayal, the wound may still be real, but the confusion no longer has to own you. Research foundation of this video: Jennifer J. Freyd, Betrayal Trauma Theory and the Psychological Effects of Violations Committed by Trusted or Depended Upon People. Albert Bandura, Moral Disengagement and the Cognitive Mechanisms People Use to Separate Harmful Conduct from Their Moral Standards. Jennifer J. Freyd and later experimental research by Sarah Harsey and colleagues, DARVO, Deny, Attack and Reverse Victim and Offender. Research on romantic betrayal and post-traumatic stress symptoms. Betrayal can produce clinically meaningful distress for some individuals, though betrayal trauma is not itself a universal diagnosis. Educational note: this documentary explains psychological concepts for education and reflection. It does not diagnose a specific person or replace professional mental health care.